We're going to continue looking at the techniques used by Azagury, Mifsud and Bacarisas. In the studio we have tonight Lionel. Hello Lionel.
Hi.
And Dennis.
Hi.
Dennis, I want to start with you. Tell me something about the technique of Lenny Mifsud in this particular work.
Right. I would like to start by saying it's, first of all, that this is an example of a brilliant use of colour. I know it sounds obvious, but there it is. The fact is that she's made no attempt in this painting to make any focal point. Instead, she's concentrated on ensuring that the viewer's eye is constantly skipping about from one place to another to set up a kind of optical vibration effect to enhance the brilliance of the work itself. And to do that, of course, she's used one of the basic techniques of painting, which is to use contrasting complementary colours. And we can see here, and I've had to make a note of this, because in addition to all the primary complementaries, we've got red against green, blue against orange, yellow against violet, and green against purple. And then she's gone out even further to employ some secondary complementaries, such as red and orange against blue and green, and blue and violet against yellow and orange. So that's, I think, where she started off, making the complementaries interact with each other to intensify the brilliance of the colours themselves. And obviously, to get brilliant colours like this, she has had to use the pure colours. Very little or no mixing at all. And to get the brilliance, she has had to use a pretty wide-ranging palette. I can see here she must have used something like 12 different pure colours, excluding black and white, to get this overall effect. And having chosen her colours and decided to use the complementaries against each other to get this enhancement of the intensity of the colours, she's gone, I think, even further in that she's, apart from the placing of the colours, she's had to ensure that not just the colours, but the size and the placing of the amounts of the colours are there to interact with each other. And this, she's made it look very easy, but in actual fact, to get that intensity and also the harmony of all these colours together, she made it look very easy. And only an expert would know how difficult it is to do this, to get this intensity and vibration, and yet get it all to harmonise together.
Yes, yes.
And of course, she's also used recessional techniques to get the push-pull by using the warmer colours and the combination with the cooler colours to get a kind of three-dimensional vibration, as well as the vibration of the colours themselves. And to add to that, of course, she's used impasto. And by doing that, she's got the light, the variations of the light on each colour itself. And it's that light, the variation of the light, as the light strikes it, the interaction of the light affected by the impasto enhances.
It seems to me that your analysis is absolutely correct, but what she's achieved is a 3D effect on a 2D surface.
Precisely. But
Lionel?
Yes, one thing that really struck me was, and I think it's been a brilliant analysis on the question of the use of colour. Well, one of the things that is particularly startling is this flatness of the yellow flowers at the front, and how that flatness suddenly is absorbed almost by this contrast with the cool colours, as Dennis mentioned behind. Because if you look at the image, there is very little perspective in the actual flowers. These are not drawn. This is pure colour technique. And the other thing that I also found quite startling, and I don't know whether it was some sort of crutch that she uses, are the two blue figures at the front that create some kind of a balance here. And I was trying to almost imagine without them, and I think to a certain extent this painting would fail without that weighty.
Well, they look to me like two props.
Two props, that's right.
To hold up.
That's right.
The flower shape is so powerful, and the vase is so small in comparison to the massive expanse of yellow, that there would have been a lot of dead space there.
Yep.
But very well chosen blues.
And another thing that happens, I think, I don't know what the date is, but around this time, we see a lot of use in still lifes of not a defined background and a background painted to enhance the main motif.
Yeah.
And it's almost in some instances with artists you get sort of a quasi abstract effect if anybody's looking at a representational painting. And they are lost here because there's a blur here between representation
no sense of place.
It's almost like an entry for people who would like to want to appreciate abstract painting within representation.
It's an entrance door into pure painting, into pure colour.
Yes.
The excuse here is a vase of flowers, but a little bit more, and you end up with a complete abstract painting here. Let's move on to the Bacarisas. This is a gouache by Gustavo. This is a work on Funchal, the coastline of Funchal in Madeira during the war. Dennis, he was also a master of the gouache technique, and he uses it in a very similar way to his oils, but the brushstroke here is left to be seen. Any comments on the Bacarisas?
Well, I'd take a point, but the thing that struck me was that this painting is an excellent example of the use of recession, or recessional techniques. That is, getting the depth.
The perspective,
And it's the depth and the perspective that is achieved in this painting that it struck me as being the most impressive aspect of the painting. Talking about it from a technique point of view only, I mean, as a work of art, I mean, and it's the overall effect it has is another thing besides, because that is obviously quite a masterpiece in its own right, I think. But coming back to the techniques, this recessional technique, or techniques he's used, would be ideal for using as a student teaching. I mean, he's used so many different techniques. For example, colour. I mean, he's used the warm colours to bring forward, and the cooler colours, of course, going back. He's got the bright colours to bring forward what he wants. The paler colours, again, as you go towards the horizon, again, giving depth. The edges he's used, again, to get that recessional effect. The sharp edges in the foreground, and again, the blurred edges as you go, move back towards the horizon. And in the linear perspective as well, which, as we know, is the use of, or the technique of making the objects themselves, or the relative size of the objects themselves, decrease again as you go further back towards the horizon. But the thing that particularly interests me is the way he's used overlapping, because I think overlapping is probably the most powerful way of achieving depth or 3D effect in a picture. I mean, it's pretty well known that if you overlap one shape with another, that the shape that has its contour broken always goes back, is always overpowered by the one.
Where in this painting do you see that, Dennis? Where do you pick that?
If you look, the foreground itself overlaps everything else in the picture.
Right, okay. So
But in
it's a bit like a stage.
Yeah, but in particular, it overlooks the fields.
Right. Come back to that in a minute, Dennis. I have to go to a break. We'll be back in a minute. Okay, welcome back. Dennis, you were mentioning about the overlapping of Bacarisas technique, especially on the middle grounds of the work, and how they sort of emphasize the distance achieved by him. Yes.
Yes, if you actually get even more interested, if you turn the picture 45 degrees, so it's on the right hand side, you see then that the foreground has exactly the same effect as the wings in a theatre, in the theatre stage. Yes, and it's the wings, of course, in the theatre stage that give the depth to the stage. And it's quite interesting that, as I say, if you turn the picture there, that foreground hits you in exactly the same way, or has the same effect as the wings achieve on a stage.
Yes, it's evident now. I can see that very clearly. Lionel?
I'd like to play, Dennis, with due respect, I'd like to play devil's advocate here, in a sense. I do feel this is an outdoor painting, and as such, it is a painting of something that is physically there.
Yes.
There is the question of techniques, but you're actually painting what is actually there. Where there is a choice in the choice of this recessional view is in the artist's choice of where to stand and paint this. And to me, it's quite obvious that it has been painted out in the open to the speed of the brush strokes, the leaving the brush strokes there. It's always difficult when we analyze from a technique from a technique aspect, and we highlight this. We must remember that this is representation of something that is actually there, and then what the skill, perhaps, in the choice of an effective composition is where the artist decides to paint from. And I agree entirely about what effect it has. But then I'd like to open it a bit as to what the choice of the artist is of the subject matter, and that very often determines the technique that is being used. He is not going to paint for Chal as it isn't from this view, although I agree completely with...
You're absolutely right, Lionel. I mean, in a landscape particularly, there's a natural overlapping, if you like.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. But just to emphasize, it's also contrived.
Yes.
And you can see the way it's contrived. If you look at the picture, the trees in the middle ground, the way he's painted those is to emphasize that overlap.
Yes.
And you can also see where he's gone wrong, because if you look at the top right-hand part of the town, you see, in fact, that it stands out. It actually comes forward instead of going back, and it looks as if the town is floating away from the sea behind it.
Yes. Yes.
And that, of course, is also due to the fact that he's done the sharp edges on that part of the picture, and also with the combination of the sharp edges and the dark value separates that part of the town basically from the rest of the picture. It's out of harmony, isn't it?
Yes, and as you highlighted before, the highlights he uses on the trees, it's a sort of again, a prop to almost save, not save the painting, because obviously it is quite beautiful, but it is a technique that he has done to emphasize that.
I suppose I emphasise this business of overlapping because I'm not a landscape artist. I'm a portrait and figure artist, and certainly when you're painting portraits and figures, this overlapping effect to give depth to a portrait is very, very important. But and I suppose it's that association that made me go for this particular technique in a landscape, although as you rightly say, most of it in landscape is a natural overlapping effect. Yes, sure.
Can we move on to the Azagury? Lionel, Azagury's technique.
Yes, I was enchanted by Azagury when I was shown locally some quick drawings, as these seem to be, of local scenes. They're around. They're around in Gibraltar. We've seen them in several shops and so on, and galleries. It would be lovely to have them out there, but here we've got an opportunity at seeing a great master of gesticulation, of gesture, of focus on very almost insignificant detail that seems to obsess his mind. I mean, the hands at the bottom of this picture immediately come to mind, are greatly, disproportionately large. It's obviously this is where he is. These hands belong to the little man behind, but it's the hands that have really attracted my attention. These fingers seems a working person, rough hands, with very, very delicate differences in their fingers. Very much of a character. The lines are very assured. Although there is later for me the shading is almost like an afterthought, like a little decoration. But I think the lines are very clearly drawn. If we go to the one at the top right-hand corner, there you see the fluidity of those quick lines. Well, one thing that really got me was the larger figure at the front, the line of buttons. And how exquisitely those are drawn with so little. It's a quick dash.
See.
The collars the same. They created almost like a fashion designer. I would imagine they work at that speed, where they produce a lot. And maybe what he's doing is using that quick technique.
Yeah, it
to
seems to
catch
me
fleeting moments.
these are moving bodies, aren't they? And he's capturing them within split seconds.
That's right.
And so we see a very trained hand and eye here.
Yeah. The other one, which is a coloured one, I can only assume that it's.
But this one is painted on wrapping paper.
Just wrapping paper.
Just wrapping paper, brown wrapping paper.
In fact, many of the drawings of Azagury that I've seen locally have been drawn on the back of
Very mean
cigarette
material,
packets, beer mats, serviettes. I recall a lot of them being on very, very thin paper.
Yes.
And it was almost as that he just chose something quickly because he wanted to capture that. I think for himself.
Yes. This is a man who's working for himself most of the time. Yes. And he needs to put his statements down. So he obviously hasn't got the money to buy better material, which we discussed in another program. So he uses what's at hand in his home. And he just works all the time. I think this is the spirit of Azagury, this desire of artist first and artist last. He just needs to make his statements every day. Dennis, your thoughts on Azagury?
Yes, the first thought that came to my mind when I was looking at these was the incredible amount of information he conveys in so few lines. I suppose this is an element of studies anyway, but in these particular ones, I mean, he's really gone over the board, because if you look at these on the top right-hand corner, these figures, and you look at them closely, first of all you see they're all looking in the same direction, but they've all got different faces and different expressions. And you wonder what and how what these people were doing. That he obviously drew them from life. I mean, they're not done from imagination. Whether he saw them all at the same time or about the same time, and if so, what they were doing. And if you keep on looking at them, and you get the impression that all of them are looking at some kind of event with the expression on their faces. So it's studied almost horror on the face of the largest figure, the one, and on the bottom right hand, the one with the long hair and the beard, he's so horror-stricken that he's actually got his eyes closed. And the little one in the middle at the bottom, the lady, obviously a lady, is actually holding up
Dennis, let me interrupt you
gown
there. I want your last word on Azagury's hands, on the bottom three, please, because our
yes.
time is running out.
As far as I can see, this was an exercise on where to place the hands that he wanted to paint. I mean, it's trying to work out a problem or solve a problem. When I started painting, I mean, I started collecting hands because they're so difficult to draw. And I thought if I got a collection of hands, it would help me when I was doing my portraits. But what I found out very shortly was there's no point in collecting hands because they've got more expressions than faces. I mean, every hand you see is always different from another one.
Dennis, I have to stop you there. The time has run out. So thanks for watching and see you next week.